nation form across the glossy conference table with manicured fingernails, her smile never wavering. My heart hammered against my ribs as 20 pairs of eyes, my colleagues, stared at their laps, their coffee cups, anywhere but at me. 5 years at Westridge Analytics. 5 years of early mornings and midnight oil. 5 years of canceled plans and postponed dreams. And this was my reward? A public execution disguised as an anniversary celebration? The room spun as I stared at the paper. The silver Happy Work Anniversary banner hanging above the conference room door now seemed like a cruel joke. The untouched cake with my name misspelled in blue frosting sat in the center of the table, 5 unlit candles mocking my tenure. I don't understand, I managed, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. Prisha's smile widened, showing perfectly aligned teeth. Your performance hasn't met our expectations for quite some time, Adrian. We've been patient, but patience has limits. Lies, pure lies. Just last quarter, my client retention strategy had saved the company millions. But as I opened my mouth to defend myself, Prisha raised her hand. This isn't a negotiation. It's a courtesy. Sign now, and we'll provide a neutral reference. Make this difficult. She let the threat hang unfinished. I took the pen, my fingers trembling with rage rather than fear. As I signed my name, Adrian Locklear, a plan began forming in my mind. A plan that would make Prisha regret this moment for the rest of her career. What happened next would change everything. But sometimes, revenge is a dish best prepared in plain sight. Before I tell you how I dismantled my boss's career brick by methodical brick, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Someone who smiled while sliding a knife between your ribs? If you have, you'll understand what drove me. And if you haven't, consider yourself lucky. But stick around anyway. You might learn something useful for when your turn comes. And if you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the satisfaction of what's coming is worth the wait. My name is Adrian Locklear, and until that humiliating afternoon, I was the senior data analyst at Westridge Analytics. I'm 32, unmarried, with a degree in business intelligence that I earned while working 2 jobs. I'm the woman who arrives first and leaves last. The one who remembers everyone's birthdays and brings homemade cookies to morning meetings. The reliable one. The steady one. The one who never says no to an extra assignment. Maybe that was the problem. My story with Westridge began 5 years earlier when I was hired as a junior analyst. From day one, I treated the company like it was my own. When our servers crashed during a major client presentation, I stayed up 48 hours straight to recover the data. When budgets were cut, I found ways to do more with less. I believed in the work we were doing, transforming raw data into actionable insights that helped businesses thrive. For the first 3 years, Prisha was my mentor. She took credit for my ideas, sure, but I didn't mind. That's how the game worked, I thought. Pay your dues, prove your worth. Climb the ladder. Prisha had hired me when other companies wouldn't look twice at my unconventional resume. I owed her. Until I didn't. The shift happened gradually, then suddenly, like walking into quicksand. First came the exclusion from meetings I'd previously attended. Then assignments that once fell to me were redistributed. My emails went unanswered for days. My suggestions in meetings were ignored, only to be praised when repeated by someone else minutes later. You're being paranoid, my colleague Milo told me when I confided in him. Prisha thinks you're brilliant. Everyone does. But I wasn't paranoid. Something had changed, and I couldn't figure out what. Then came the Knox project. Our biggest potential client, Knox Industries, needed a complete overhaul of their data management systems. The contract would be worth millions, enough to put Westridge on the map nationally. Our team was tasked with creating the proposal. I spent weeks researching, analyzing, crafting the perfect pitch. I created a customized dashboard that would give Knox real-time insights into their supply chain, something no competitor was offering. The night before the presentation, I emailed the final materials to Prisha, copying the team. Outstanding work, she replied. This could be the one that changes everything. She wasn't wrong. The morning of the presentation, I arrived early to set up. only to find the conference room already prepared. Prisha was there, reviewing slides I didn't recognize. "What happened to the materials I sent?" I asked. She barely glanced up. "I made some adjustments, nothing major." But they were major. My name had been removed from the proposal. My custom dashboard was there but attributed to the leadership team. My weeks of research presented as collective effort. "Don't look so wounded, Adrian," Prisha said, noticing my expression. "This is how business works. Knox wants to know they're dealing with decision makers." I swallowed my objections and sat through the presentation, watching Prisha take sole credit for my work. Knox signed the contract that afternoon, our biggest win ever. Prisha was promoted to vice president the following week. I received a gift card to a coffee shop. That should have been my warning sign. Instead, I doubled down, working harder, staying later, determined to prove my value. I maintained detailed records of my contributions, not out of suspicion, but because I was proud of my work. Each project folder contained every email, every draft, every piece of feedback. A digital breadcrumb trail of my professional life. Little did I know how valuable those records would become. 6 months before my 5th anniversary, Westridge landed another potential game changer, Elara Tech, a rising star in the industry. They needed a complete analytics solution, and they needed it fast. The CEO assigned the project to Prisha's department. "Adrian, you'll take point," Prisha announced in the team meeting. "Your experience with Knox makes you perfect for this." I was elated, finally. Recognition, the chance to lead a major project from start to finish. I threw myself into it completely, canceling a long-planned vacation, working through weekends. I developed an innovative predictive model that could save Elara millions in preventable losses. The presentation was scheduled for Monday. On Friday afternoon, Prisha called me into her office. "We need to talk about Elara," she said, her voice oddly flat. "I just finished the final projections," I said, excited to share the results. "The savings potential is even higher than we estimated. There's been a change of plan. Theo will be leading the presentation." Theo, her nephew who'd joined the company 3 months earlier with no relevant experience. "But why?" I stammered. "Elara's executives are traditional. They respond better to male presenters. She wouldn't meet my eyes. It's nothing personal." "Nothing personal. Just the theft of weeks of my life. Just another erasure." "Theo doesn't understand the model," I protested. "He wasn't involved in developing it." "He'll manage. I've added my name as co-creator, so I'll be there to answer any technical questions." I sat there, speechless with rage and disbelief. "Is there a problem?" she asked, finally looking at me. Yes, there was a problem. A massive problem. But I smiled and said, "No problem at all." That weekend, I did something I'd never done before. I made copies of everything related to the Elara project. Every email, every draft, every late-night revelation. I documented my hours, my insights, the evolution of the predictive model from concept to completion. I compiled it all into a detailed report, a record of truth. Not for revenge. Not yet. Just as insurance. Monday came. I watched from the back of the room as Theo fumbled through my presentation, mispronouncing terms I'd created, misrepresenting data I'd meticulously analyzed. Prisha jumped in repeatedly to correct him, claiming shared credit with every intervention. Elara signed the contract anyway. Theo received a promotion. I received nothing. 1 month later, I was called into a performance review meeting. Unscheduled, unexpected. "Your work has been slipping, Adrian," Prisha said, sliding a document across the table. "This is a formal warning." I stared at the paper in disbelief. The complaints were vague. Lack of initiative, communication issues, failure to meet expectations. Nothing specific. Nothing actionable. "If you want to discuss specific examples," I began. "This isn't a discussion," she interrupted. "Sign the warning." I signed. What choice did I have? After that, the targets on my back multiplied. Impossible deadlines. Contradictory instructions. Projects reassigned without notice. Meetings rescheduled without telling me. Each misstep, engineered or genuine, documented in my personnel file. Still, I persisted. I kept my head down and did the work. I continued building my shadow archive of contributions, saving emails, documenting conversations, not out of paranoia, but because something told me I would need proof someday. Then came my work anniversary, the day everything changed. After signing the resignation form in that conference room, full of silent colleagues, I walked out with my head high. No tears, no pleas. Just quiet dignity as I collected my personal items under Prisha's watchful eye. "Security will escort you out," she said, as if I might steal something after 5 years of loyalty. As the guard walked me to the exit, my phone buzzed with a text from Milo. "This isn't right. What can I do?" What could anyone do? Westridge was Prisha's kingdom now. She had the CEO's ear, the board's confidence, and a talent for rewriting history with herself as the hero. But I had something she didn't know about, something powerful. The truth, documented, dated, undeniable. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and finally let the tears come. 5 years gone, my reputation in tatters, my future uncertain. For 10 minutes, I allowed myself to feel everything: the hurt, the rage, the humiliation. Then I dried my eyes, started the engine, and began to plan. Not a tantrum, not a lawsuit, something more elegant, more complete. I drove to the office of Westridge's biggest competitor. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I reveal what happened in that meeting, you need to understand just how thoroughly Prisha had underestimated me. You see, while she was busy taking credit for my work, I was quietly becoming indispensable to our clients. They didn't care about titles or organizational charts. They cared about results, and I was the one who delivered them. Knox Industries, Alera Tech, Pinnacle Systems. I knew their data inside and out. I had built relationships with their analysts, their IT departments, their decision makers. I had solved problems Prisha didn't even know existed. And I had documented everything. That night, after being forced to resign, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by files, digital and physical. 5 years of work, 5 years of stolen credit, 5 years of building solutions that had made Westridge millions. My fingers hovered over my laptop keyboard. One email could expose everything. One post could burn it all down. The temptation was overwhelming. But revenge born of anger leaves evidence. It betrays itself. And I wasn't angry anymore. I was something much more dangerous. I was methodical. What happened next would either restore my career or end it forever. As I typed the first words of an email that would change everything, I realized there was no turning back. The question wasn't whether Prisha would pay for what she'd done. The question was whether I could make her downfall look like justice rather than revenge. And as my plan took shape in the quiet hours of that night, I knew the answer was yes. Because the most devastating weapon against a liar isn't anger. It's truth. The morning after my forced resignation, I woke with purpose rather than despair. While Prisha probably expected me to be hiding under my covers, I was at my laptop by 6 a.m., coffee in hand, mapping out my next moves with surgical precision. First, I requested my exit interview with Human Resources, standard procedure that even Prisha couldn't block. Marlo, the HR director who'd been with the company since its founding, seemed genuinely confused by my departure. "Your performance metrics are consistently exceptional," she said, reviewing my file. "There's nothing here that suggests termination was warranted." I maintained a neutral expression. I wasn't terminated. I resigned. At Prisha's suggestion, Marlo's eyebrow arched slightly. I simply smiled. "I believe it's best for all parties if I move on." Marlo studied me for a moment. "Adrian, off the record, is there something I should know?" The invitation to vent, to accuse, to expose Prisha dangled before me like ripe fruit, but premature accusations would only paint me as a disgruntled ex-employee. Instead, I took a different approach. "Actually, there is something," I said. "I'd like to request a brief meeting with Emmett." Emmett Devereaux, Westridge's founder and CEO, a man I'd seen exactly twice in 5 years. both times from across a crowded room. Marlowe blinked in surprise. The CEO? That's unusual for an exit interview. I've dedicated 5 years to his company, I replied calmly. I'd simply like to thank him personally before I go. I'll see what I can do, Marlowe said, making a note, though I can't promise anything. I thanked her and left, knowing that my unusual request would spark curiosity. In a company culture built on hierarchy and protocol, asking to see the CEO was like a village peasant requesting an audience with the king. It would raise questions exactly as I intended. Back home, I began the real work. I spent hours organizing my documentation into a comprehensive transition report. Not a revenge dossier that would be too obvious, but a detailed accounting of every project I'd touched in 5 years. Each entry included the project scope, key milestones, challenges overcome, and results achieved. I included all communications, giving proper credit to everyone involved, including Prisha when appropriate. Most importantly, I created a section called Knowledge Transfer Priorities that highlighted the clients and projects most likely to suffer from my departure. For each, I included contact information, outstanding issues, and recommended actions. Nothing accusatory, just practical information any responsible departing employee would provide. The completed document ran to 126 pages. At 9:17 the next morning, my phone rang with an unknown number. Ms. Locklear? This is Emmett Devereaux's office. The CEO has agreed to meet with you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for 15 minutes. My heart skipped. Please thank him. I'll be there. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from nervousness, but from anticipation. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would say it. The key was to appear grateful, not bitter. Professional, not vengeful. To plant seeds rather than make accusations. When I arrived at Westridge the following day, the security guard who had escorted me out just days before looked startled. I have an appointment with Mr. Devereaux, I explained, showing the email confirmation. His eyebrows shot up. Yes, ma'am. Top floor, end of the hall. The elevator ride gave me time to steady my breathing. I was dressed not for a job interview but for a business meeting, confident but not aggressive. I carried a leather portfolio containing a printed copy of my transition report, its digital version already sent to Emmett's executive assistant. His office was exactly what you'd expect from a tech CEO who'd built his company from nothing. Spacious but not ostentatious, with clean lines and large windows overlooking the city. The man himself rose from behind his desk as I entered, shorter than I expected, with kind eyes that had probably seen every trick in the business playbook. Ms. Locklear, he said, extending his hand. I understand you're leaving us after 5 years. Yes, sir. Thank you for making time to see me. He gestured to a chair. I make time for employees who've contributed significantly to our growth. Your name has appeared in several success stories that have crossed my desk, particularly Knox and Alara. I kept my expression neutral despite the surge of validation. I was fortunate to be part of those projects. So why leave? Marlowe mentioned your resignation was unexpected. Here was my opening, but instead of launching into accusations, I placed my portfolio on his desk. Before I answer that, I'd like to give you this. It's a comprehensive transition report covering all my projects. I believe in leaving things better than I found them. Emmett looked surprised as he flipped through the document. This is unusually thorough. I care deeply about Westridge's success, even as I move on. He studied me for a moment. You didn't answer my question. Why leave? I met his gaze steadily. It seemed the appropriate time for a change. By the way, I've received several offers from competitors, but I've declined them all. I respect this company too much to take our strategies elsewhere. That caught his attention. He leaned forward slightly. Which competitors? I named 3. All firms that had indeed approached me over the years. Emmett's expression shifted subtly. You said you were part of the Knox and Alara projects, he noted. My understanding is that you were instrumental in both. Every success at Westridge has been a team effort, I replied diplomatically. Of course. He paused, studying me. Tell me about the predictive model for Alara. Prisha presented it as a breakthrough. It certainly represented a new approach, I agreed. And your contribution to it? I hesitated just long enough to appear modest rather than boastful. I developed the initial concept and built the working prototype. Emmett's eyebrows rose slightly. Prisha presented it as her innovation. I smiled carefully. Perhaps I misunderstood the question. I meant my contribution to the concept. His expression changed subtly. He asked more specific questions about the model's development, technical details that only its creator would know intimately. Each answer I provided revealed my deep knowledge of its creation. The meeting extended well beyond the scheduled 15 minutes. Your transition report, he said eventually, tapping the document. You've included attribution for all team members on each project. Proper credit is important in collaborative environments, I replied. Indeed it is. He studied me with new interest. One last question, Ms. Locklear. If you were to stay at Westridge, what position would you feel qualified to hold? The question caught me off guard. That's no longer relevant, sir. Humor me. I considered carefully. Based on my experience and results, I believe I could effectively lead the analytics division. Prisha's position. Emmett nodded slowly. Thank you for your time and for this detailed report. I wish you success in your future endeavors. As I left his office, I had no idea if my seeds had found fertile ground or if I'd just wasted my one shot at justice. The uncertainty was excruciating. 2 days later, while clearing out my apartment for a planned move to another city, my phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Locklear, this is Emmett Devereaux. Are you available to come to the office tomorrow morning? My heart stuttered. Yes, of course. 9 o'clock, my office. He hung up without explanation. That night was longer than the one before my resignation. What did he want? Had Prisha somehow twisted things against me? Had I miscalculated? The next morning, I arrived at Westridge at 8:45, pulse racing. The security guard nodded with unexpected respect as I signed in. They're expecting you upstairs, he said. They? When I reached Emmett's office, his assistant immediately ushered me in. Inside, Emmett stood beside a woman I recognized as Gwen Torres, Westridge's chief financial officer. My mouth went dry. Thank you for coming, Adrian, Emmett said, using my first name for the first time. Please, sit down. I took the offered chair, keeping my expression carefully neutral. We've been reviewing your transition report, he continued. The CFO noticed some discrepancies between project attributions and financial allocations. Gwen nodded. The Knox implementation budget shows resources allocated to a team of 8 led by Prisha. Your report indicates the core development was completed by you and 2 junior analysts. Those were the facts as I understood them, I said carefully. Emmett slid a document across the desk, a revised organizational chart. My eyes widened as I scanned it. Prisha's name was missing entirely. My name appeared in a new position, Director of Analytics. Your boss has been terminated, Emmett stated plainly. We found she's been claiming credit for others' work while misallocating resources. The board was particularly disturbed by how the Alara predictive model was handled. He extended his hand. We'd like to offer you a proper anniversary gift, the position you've actually earned. I stared at the chart, then at him, struggling to process what was happening. You seem surprised, Gwen observed. I am, I admitted. I didn't expect this outcome. What did you expect? Emmett asked. The truth tumbled out before I could stop it. I just wanted the record set straight. I didn't come here to take Prisha's job. You didn't have to, Gwen replied. Your documentation spoke for itself. Once we started digging, the pattern became clear. Prisha has been systematically taking credit for her team's work while hiding resource misallocations. The question now, Emmett continued, is whether you want the position. You're qualified, you've earned it. But if you've made other plans, in the days since my resignation, I'd been so focused on setting the record straight that I hadn't truly considered what would come after. The job offers I'd mentioned were real, but I hadn't accepted any. I would need to think about it, I said honestly. Emmett nodded. Take the weekend. But know this, we value integrity here. What Prisha did violated our core principles. What you did, creating a detailed, factual record without accusations or demands, demonstrated exactly the leadership qualities we need. As I left the building, my phone buzzed with messages from former colleagues who'd already heard the news of Prisha's departure. Word travels fast in corporate ecosystems. Milo's message stood out. Is it true? Did you slay the dragon? I didn't answer immediately. This didn't feel like slaying a dragon. It felt like restoring balance. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing work-related. I hiked in the nearby state park. I read a novel from cover to cover. I slept for 10 uninterrupted hours. And I thought about what I really wanted. By Monday morning, I had my answer. I arrived at Westridge at 8:30 a.m., earlier than necessary for my 9 a.m. meeting with Emmett. I wanted to walk through the office, to feel whether this could still be home after everything that had happened. The analytics department fell silent as I entered. 20 faces turned toward me, some hopeful, some anxious, all curious. These were my colleagues, people I'd worked alongside for years, people who had watched in silence as Prisha humiliated me. But had I given them a choice? Had I ever spoken up before it was too late? Milo approached first, his expression a mix of admiration and guilt. You're back. Not officially, I replied. I'm still deciding. For what it's worth, he said quietly. We're all hoping you stay. Things were wrong here. We knew it, but we didn't know what to do. Others gathered around, offering similar sentiments. Theo, Prisha's nephew, hung back, looking uncomfortable. I have a meeting with Emmett, I said finally. I should go. In the elevator, I made my decision. Emmett was waiting, a contract ready on his desk. Have you decided? Yes, I said, sitting across from him. I'll accept the position, but I have 3 conditions. He looked surprised, but gestured for me to continue. First, I want a complete departmental review with no repercussions for honest feedback. If there are other issues like what happened with Prisha, I want to address them properly. Emmett nodded. Reasonable? Second, I want to implement a new project attribution system. Every team member's contribution should be documented and recognized, from interns to directors. That could actually improve our project tracking. And third, I took a deep breath. Theo stays. Emmett's eyebrows shot up. Prisha's nephew? The one who presented your work as his own? He did what his aunt told him to do. He needs guidance, not punishment. I want the chance to lead differently than Prisha did. Emmett studied me for a long moment before breaking into a smile. You continue to surprise me, Adrian. Those conditions are acceptable. He slid the contract toward me. As I signed, he added, the board is particularly interested in your predictive model for Alara. They believe it could be adapted for other clients. It can be, I confirmed, but it will require a team effort. No single person could implement it across multiple platforms. No false credit this time, Emmett promised. This time, everyone will know exactly who created it. When I returned to the analytics department, my department now, I called everyone together. Faces that had avoided my gaze during my humiliation now looked to me for leadership. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'm sure you've all heard about the changes, I began. I want to be clear about how things will work going forward. I outlined my vision for the department. Collaborative, transparent, accountable. No stolen credit. No impossible demands. No fear. We have brilliant minds in this room, I concluded. Together, we're going to do incredible work, and everyone will get the recognition they deserve. As the team dispersed, Theo approached hesitantly. I heard you asked for me to stay. Why? After what happened with the Alara presentation, I looked at this young man, barely out of college, who'd been molded by his aunt's toxic example. Because everyone deserves a second chance to prove who they really are, I replied, including me. That afternoon, as I settled into my new office, Prisha's former space, Marlo from HR appeared at my door. Congratulations on the promotion, she said, though I suspect this isn't how you imagined getting it. Not exactly, I admitted. She hesitated, then added, you should know, Prisha's been telling people you orchestrated her downfall, that you manipulated Emmett with false documentation. I nodded slowly. I expected as much. It won't stick. Marlo assured me. The financial records don't lie. Neither do the project timestamps and email chains. The truth has a way of persisting. As she turned to leave, she paused. By the way, Prisha tried to access the building this morning. Security turned her away. Apparently, she wanted to clear her name with the team. I smiled slightly. I would have let her in. Marlo looked puzzled. Really? Why? Because the most devastating weapon against a liar isn't silencing them, I said. It's letting them speak while holding irrefutable proof of the truth. 3 months later, the analytics department had its most productive quarter in company history. The project attribution system I implemented became a company-wide standard. Theo developed into one of our most promising analysts once freed from his aunt's shadow. And Prisha? She found a position at a smaller firm across town. I heard she tells a different version of what happened at Westridge, one where she was the victim of corporate politics and an ungrateful protege. But here's the truth she'll never admit. I didn't destroy Prisha's career with accusations or outbursts. I didn't spread rumors or demand justice. I simply created a complete, honest record of 5 years of work and placed it in the right hands. I let the truth speak for itself. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't about what you do to someone else. It's about who you become despite what they did to you. I became a leader who gives credit rather than takes it, who builds others up rather than climbs over them, who documents everything not out of paranoia, but because true contribution deserves recognition. And every year on my work anniversary, instead of resignation letters, I hand out recognition awards to team members whose contributions might otherwise go unnoticed. The company calls it the Locklear tradition now. A small reminder that in the end, truth prevails. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or pushed aside, remember this. Your work speaks for itself. Keep records. Stay professional. And when the moment comes to stand up for yourself, do it with dignity rather than rage. The sweetest victory isn't destroying your opponent. It's succeeding where they said you couldn't. Have you ever faced a similar situation? What would you have done in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real stories about overcoming workplace challenges. Remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well and letting the truth have its day.